Bari veadartsielium kandine sa navetisiana yevlu sumek haikakan radio WJCU utsunut ambokshut FM. Ali Kivera. Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to the Armenian Radio Show live here on WJCU 88.7 FM. And this is your hostess, Anna. We're about 5 minutes past the hour, and typically during the halfway point, I would be reading the news headlines for the week. But as I mentioned at the beginning of my show, we have a very special show today, particularly because of our special guests. We have Amo here. He's one of my very good friends, a very good friend of the Armenian community. Many of you may know him and his wife, Lilit. They live very close to me, very close to here, and I have gotten very close to them over the last couple years. And Amo has recently released an album titled Redemption under the name Svain, Svain. I'll be posting some links after our interview, but you can check him out, Svain, on mostly all social media. But I'm so glad to have him here in the studio, and we're going to do a little interview, just kind of get to know him, get to know his music, and he's going to tell us about his inspirations and what he wants to talk about for his music. So everybody say hello to Amo. Amo, say hello to everybody.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Anna, thanks for having me here. It's an honor to be here today.
Yeah, for sure. I don't usually have people coming into the radio, let alone even being alive with me, so that's a really cool honor. A lot of people like to come and maybe sit around and listen to me, but I think it's cool that you decided and wanted to do this interview with us, so thank you.
It's an honor. This is my first time being live on any radio station, but yeah, I'm excited. Should be a good time. I'd like to also start by also saying that I think it's super cool that you run an Armenian radio station, and just being an Armenian American here, just seeing like our cultural presence kind of evolve, and to hear that, because we got such a small community, and it's awesome.
It is awesome, and to so like serendipitously be not only friends with you guys and have you guys in my life, but also know you through your music, I think is really, really cool. So I think there's many layers there, friendship, we have Armenian culture and community, and of course we have music too, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But let's start by, tell us a little bit about yourself, and your hobbies other than music, of course, just things like that.
All right. Let's see where to start. You always think like you never think about these things unless they come up as questions.
Right. But it's hard to think about, but
so I'm an Armenian American. Obviously, so I wasn't born here. When I was 3 years old, I actually moved from Uzbekistan, Tashkent. So that's where my parents ended up after all the wars going on and everything, all the unrest. So at 3, I moved here started in New York. And from New York City, we moved to Cleveland, kind of just long story short. Here's kind of where things started for me. So for the most part, I've been living here, but I've always been close to who I am and my Armenian culture, and just being from that side of the world too. I got a little bit of Russian in there as well, but so
multi-ethnic, I definitely say, for a lot of us Armenians living here now.
Yeah,
we have a lot of roots that we could trace back to different places.
That's the thing too, like everyone's scattered. So it's always been a interesting thing to explain to people when everyone's like, oh, so you're Russian, and it's like, no, I'm Armenian.
Right.
I just, that's where my family ended up, because everyone during the genocide, I guess you would say, that's everyone kind of ran
everywhere, anywhere they could, and that's the case with a lot of Armenians. I think we can all relate to that. Just trying to explain to people like, well, I was born here, but also I'm not this, but I'm that, but also this. So it is very interesting, and I think that is definitely a common theme throughout Armenians around the world. So. So you moved here when you were 3. Do you know, like from what age were you interested in music? Were you always interested, or did that come later in life?
So I would say I got interested in music right when I was going into high school. So when my freshman year started up, in between that summer, it's hard to really think back to like what exactly inspired me, but I think I just got into the group of friends that were, the metal kids, and listening to. Well, we were listening to more heavy stuff, so we were more into metal, and I met a couple of guys during my freshman year who were older than me, and I just obviously I thought they were cool, so they had the tattoos and the hair and everything like that. So, and one of my good friends at the time, who also taught me a lot about guitar, his name was Jesse. that I went to school with, and he was just like super inviting guy. You know, he taught me pretty much how to hold a guitar, how to hold a pick, and all that kind of stuff. He got me started, and I was very young, you know, narrow-minded in terms of my musical genre. I'm like, I want to play metal. That's all I want to do. So, I think it kicked off from there, and then you know, my parents kind of they were a bit on the fence because I started saxophone when I was like years ago, and then I dropped it. I didn't even
I didn't know
start
that you
it.
played saxophone.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I did. They bought me a saxophone, and I started to play, or I went to like one class, and they just wasted all this money, and I never ended up going there. So I thought it was like a cool thing it was a cool idea, but actually going and starting to do that, I didn't, you know, make anything out of it. So when I said I was interested in guitar, they're already like,
sure.
Like,
it's like all of us.
You're not serious about it. So, and I wanted an electric guitar. So obviously started with wanting to play metal. I was younger, you know, but the right way to, I guess, start to build like your calluses and all that musical like theory or whatever you want to call it. So it was to start with an acoustic guitar, which was completely not at all what I wanted to do.
Yeah. But you play the acoustic guitar now.
So now, long story short, it's like, that's all I play. I don't know much about like, you know, shredding on a guitar like I would when I would start playing metal. I kind of transitioned, and I just kind of fell in love with songwriting. Yeah,
because your music now, I mean, we just took a listen to his song Sparks before this. That's one of the songs off of the new album Redemption. And I mean, like many of your songs, it's kind of got that folk vibe. Basically trying to say it looks like you've moved on from the metal, kind of in a different direction, which I think, you know, either way it would have been cool. But it's funny how our you know, tastes or interests change just based on what comes up. So would you ever play around with having an electric guitar in your future albums or future music? Or
I think so. And in fact, since we started writing this album, and since, you know, like, are piecing it all together, and big shout out to Crooked River Studios, Spencer Hawk. He's a very close friend of mine, and we grew up doing music together pretty much, and he's now running a studio. And you know, just being in the studio with him, and because he's done some of the, or pretty much most of the lead parts in the album for me, so that was cool to just see him doing that. It just kind of inspired me to get an electric and get into that. So now I got a little live setup in my basement, so I'm kind of dabbling in that again, because it's just something I stopped doing, and then it kind of inspired me to kind of get back into it. But he's great at
that's awesome,
you know, putting all those things in there.
Yeah, so for us music nerds out there, tell us a little bit about what instruments you have in your setup that you just mentioned.
So instruments, really just for me, because I just play acoustic. So I've been playing before I started this album, I was doing a lot of nylon string acoustics. That's just kind of similar, for those who don't know, like Spanish guitar. Style acoustic, because I've been doing like a lot of finger picking stuff, which actually I didn't do any at all on my album. Just because I didn't have enough material of it, and maybe down the road I'll kind of work on that to make more instrumental stuff. But I was mainly just acoustic, steel string acoustic are the instruments. I got maybe like 3 or 4 of those right now that I kind of alternate between, and I do have one electric that I kind of dabble in now. So now that I have some live things, because I didn't have an amp or anything, and the acoustic would just fit me better, because one, I could take it around with me anywhere, and then,
more portable.
And the style of music I was writing, because I was singing now, and when I started playing metal, let's say, I never thought in a million years that I would start or want to learn how to sing. And then eventually, like, I think I don't know if those of you who may have read or not, I made a post kind of thanking one of my best friends, who's now in Florida, is Matt Paul. When I met him, I got inspired to sing. And
that's awesome.
We were writing music together, and he was a singer for the music we were writing. And then I just kind of followed along. I started, you know, joining the tracks that we did, but I used so much auto-tune, and it was so bad. It's cringe. It's pretty cringe thinking about like all the stuff that I started with, and I definitely didn't grow up with the voice. And even now, I'm still working on a lot of stuff. And which I guess kind of also brings me to go over, like, I'm sure you'll ask, like, Redemption.
Yes.
What the album is.
What does that entail? Tell us a little bit about that. What it kind of goes over.
So, obviously the name and the meaning can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. You know, for whoever is listening to it can fit it to whatever they have going on in their lives, or whatever you want to call it. But for me, the reason I wanted to call it Redemption is because for me it's like a redemptive album.
Sure.
Because I released like a lot of half written songs and things that I wasn't too proud of. I always like held back. I was always like, this isn't perfect, you know, this isn't something that that I was happy with. But at the end of the day, I'm like, this is the best I can do, like with the equipment I had and with writing and stuff. Or I would get like too inspired really quick. I'd release the track and then I'm like, why did I do that? So yeah, to me, like recording these new songs, or some of them are old songs that I've written that I was able to finally like put together and make. So this is kind of like a redemption for me to get back into music and do it the right way. And so
that makes sense. It is. You're right. And redemption can mean a lot of different things to people, but I do think in your case, that's a perfect word. And I think a lot of people can relate to that for sure in any field that they do.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell us, maybe walk us through the album a little bit. What are some of your inspirations when it comes to songwriting? And I guess specifically for this album, if there's any like Sparks to me seemed like a bit of a love song kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to hear Hollow afterwards, but wherever you want to start, tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind this album.
All right. So I would say this album is very different from like a lot of stuff I've done, just in terms of like the genre, the style. I kind of gathered it from a lot of different sources and kind of found my own sound throughout those things. I guess my biggest inspiration is probably Kaleo. They're an Icelandic band. Mostly know me though, that I'm a huge fan of those guys. And when I first heard their stuff, it kind of opened some kind of gateway into like Delta blues and classic rock and rock and all that kind of stuff. And before I was kind of, I'm always bouncing around with music, but this was just kind of like, all right, like I like this form of writing, and I like this,
really
like
spoke to you.
Yeah, I like the scales that he's using in his vocal patterns and everything, and like just the music spoke to me. The songs themselves and just like, again, like their style and everything. So since I discovered them, I kind of, well, I don't want to say mimic, but I kind of try to like just kind of experiment, I guess, with like how they were writing and everything. And that's a majority of where like the inspiration came from. I listen to all sorts of music, and I still like I'll listen to metal, I'll listen to classic rock, I'll listen to all sorts of things like revivalists, a lot of stuff people haven't heard of, like Bones of J.R. Jones. He's cool. You've
turned me on to a lot of bands that I haven't heard of, so that's pretty cool. Yeah,
it's kind of like the roots, blues, underground, like those weird playlists you'll find on Spotify that are like, it's just like a lot of indie alternative artists, and I just kind of took all that and I was able to find my sound.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So would you say your Armenian background or any Armenian musicians inspire you at all?
Yeah. So just being like, so our history is very old.
Yeah.
And I always liked that, and all the old instruments that we use and everything like that.
Yeah.
To be honest, like I haven't, in terms of like inspirations, let's see. So like, my wife Lily, so she knows the band La Veli.
Oh yeah, we love La Veli.
Yeah. And I had the pleasure of meeting those guys, and they.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and they kind of have that style to their music where it's not like the stuff you will hear like
day-to-day pop.
Yeah,
stuff.
Exactly.
They're very unique as well.
Yeah, and I think they take like this medieval aspect of our culture and like fuse it into their stuff, and that's kind of what speaks to me a lot.
Yeah.
Is that's kind of the best way I could, like classical almost.
Right.
But
right.
Medieval,
to the roots. Yeah.
Roots. So even though I can't, unfortunately, I don't understand or speak Armenian, but I'm getting there.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I think they're really cool, and I think like a lot of other artists, like, just the really cultural stuff.
For sure.
I guess is what kind of sticks out to me.
Yeah,
for
definitely.
Armenian, yeah.
And I think that's cool. Despite the fact that you don't speak or read or whatever Armenian, I mean that's like a lot of our listeners as well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of really boils down to the whole like music is a vibe. It's an international language.
Sure.
I think between all of us, and you really feel music. You don't always have to understand the exact words, but you get the vibes. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
In fact, I think like if I develop some language skills or anything like that, I would love to write a song in Armenian.
Oh, cool! Yeah.
To be able to like sing something.
Yeah.
And play it and just kind of maybe work with some Armenian bands even that I can find
cool,
that can help me like transpose music into the language that I'm not too familiar with in terms of like myself being able to speak and not only speak but sing it.
Sure.
But I think that would be really cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
That would be cool. So we're gonna play the song "Hollow" in a little bit. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that song and what was the inspiration behind that?
So "Hollow" turned out to be like one of the big, one of the big ones on the track, I think, because when I kind of interview or ask my friends or those who have listened to the album, like, hey, what are your favorite songs? Because I kind of try to get my own gauge of
see what's popular, more popular.
Yeah. And I think like so with the EP as well, I put a lot of difference in there because one thing that always kind of bothered me, well, not bothered me, but always kind of stood out to me that a lot of people would tell me that a lot of your songs sound similar.
Really?
Before.
Oh, before
I was writing, and I can't argue with that because I wrote a lot of songs, a lot of lyrics, I guess, and different types of songs in the same like style.
Gotcha.
Or not even style, but like I would take a song and I would have like 10 different lyrics for them. And then like I would figure out which one fit best, and then I kind of made like 3 different songs out of the same chord structure. So what I wanted to do with this EP and what I did was I kind of branched out and I tried to make it as diverse as I could. Like I wanted to get piano in there, and I wanted to make something more upbeat, something more sad or
somber,
calm, a love song, which I didn't think I was going to throw in there, but I did throw Sparks in there, which was cool.
Yeah, I like that one.
So yeah, I put a lot of different styles in there. Let me get back on track.
Hollow. Inspirational. Hollow,
yeah. I gotta get carried away. I branch out.
You're fine.
Yeah, so Hollow, the way that song came out was, speaking of like, it's kind of appropriate, I guess, for like Armenian radio and everything, because it's kind of when it started was that the recent war that was going on.
Right, the 2020 war.
2020 war with Artak. It was kind of in the middle of that, and those who were around me at the time know I was very affected by it, as well as I'm sure you were, and a lot of our friends and families, and it was a very tough time for us.
Yeah.
And whether we were, I'm sure, especially being there, but even for us here, watching from such a distance and everything like that. Long story short, I got very emotional, and it was a period of time when we were reaching out and we kind of became activists. We were, making posts on Facebook and trying to bring awareness, and at the same time COVID was going on, and like the presidential election. So there was like a lot of stuff going on that was like,
it's a tumultuous time.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. And I just couldn't understand like why, like, enough people weren't reaching out, and especially those who I was close to say, hey, what's going on here? What's happening and all that kind of stuff. And I think I took it very personally.
Yeah.
And I got very emotional towards that. So, and the best time, I guess people will tell you, is when you write music, is when you're under a lot of emotion. And that's kind of where Hollow came to be. If you like look at I have the lyric video up. So of course I try to bring it in a kind of a song format. And what the song's about is obviously the fake friends, I guess you would call it. So the people in your life that you thought were in your back corner that weren't there. And I think at the end of the day, that kind of weeded out some people in your life that may have not been, should have been there. And I think we all kind of go through that point in our lives where we love those who are next to us. We love our friends, but at the same time, there might be a few, or maybe not at all, but there might be a few that may not be who you think until something serious happens in your life where you have to see who's actually in your corner or not. So
yeah, for sure. For sure.
And that's just kind of where it started. That song kind of evolved from that, and I gave it kind of like this blues rock vibe, because at the same time it was kind of like, got the bad weight off my back was one of the parts of the lyrics.
Yeah.
Is like you feel good, but at
Yeah.
the same time you're like you're done.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes, I think
that's
Hollow
kinda...
is a good title for that too. So,
Mhm.
anything else you wanted to touch on?
Well, I guess while we were going over a couple of songs, I guess I owe it to the last music video I did. I just wanted to point out, the song that a lot of people also watch the video on and listen to, and the one that kind of is something that I dedicated this EP to is my best friend, who's no longer with us, Colin.
Yeah.
And he passed away a few years back in 2020 from colorectal cancer, and so I wrote a song for him, "Wind in the Trees." I made a music video, and just kind of wanted to at least put that out there, I guess, at the end of the show, just to kind of pay some respects. That was a tough one to do, but I'd love to talk more about it. But there was so much that went into this thing. In terms with the music video, and at first, like, I wanted to get an animation done, but then it was just like it finally came together. But I guess I don't know where to I don't know how to take this,
because you could tell how many different like areas of influence that this EP had. I think there's many depths of layers, of sadness, of happiness, of love, of hate, of tribulation, and things like that. So that's very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me today
no problem.
On the show. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Make sure you guys check out Svain. You can check him out on pretty much any streaming website. Amo, tell us more. Where can they check out your music?
So the EP's out. Came out on the 15th. So everything's already been posted. So you have YouTube, obviously. I put all the songs on there. You have the music videos, the lyric videos, some special stuff like that. But primarily, if you're driving in the car, you're going to be Spotify, Apple Music, pretty much everywhere. Anywhere you could stream music,
makes it easy.
You will find it. Redemption,
awesome.
Svain. Check it out, and let me know what you guys think. I'm always willing to talk to people, and I like getting the feedback.
For
so
sure.
It helps me build, and for my next EP, I want to take like kind of like get like a scale of all right, what kind of songs did everybody like, and just go off that.
Go over there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again, and guys, thank you guys for tuning in. That was Amo of Svain, and we're going to take a listen to the song Hollow, which we just talked about, and only here on Armenian Radio.